This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me as usual are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week we've got 3 new reviews to talk about. We're going to kick off with the latest film from Jesse V. Johnson, Boudica. Then we have Bite and Red Tide Massacre. Our short shot is the horror short The Offering. And then we have our DTV Throwback, Maniac Cop 2. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is Boudica. King Prasutagus rules over the Iceni people with his wife Boudica by his side. But when he is betrayed and killed, Boudica's kingdom is left without a male heir and the Romans seize her land. Determined to avenge her husband's death, Boudica rallies the tribes from the region and wages an epic war against the Roman Empire. So, guys, this is the latest film from Jesse Johnson, starring Olga Kurylenko. A few other familiar faces pop up in this one. Fans of Jesse's films will certainly spot some familiar faces in here. Steve, over to you first. What do you make of Boudica?
A little bit let down, to be honest. I like Olga Kurylenko. I think she's been really good in some of the films we've watched recently, like the what was the French one where she's like the copper?
Oh, the Sentinel.
Sentinel.
Yeah. Yes. That she's great in that. This, I think it starts off well. She's really good, but it just everything feels signposted. You know, when her husband, the king, gets betrayed, you know it straight away. You know what it is he's betrayed in, and then like the final third was just like one big battle scene over and over and over again, and he just dragged it out for me and just left it a bit weak at the ending. But I thought the kids were great. The other performances were up to scratch, and especially Nick Moran. He was a sleazy little bastard, isn't it? But yeah, I just thought it let itself down a little bit. It just became too samey. Like I said, for the last third, no difference. And the like the Caesar or the Roman king.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's in 2 scenes.
Yeah,
and there wasn't enough of that. It just felt like a useless war, to be fair, because there's no one big enemy against, really.
Yeah, that's the Caesar scenes made me laugh admittedly, because he's prancing around in this sort of like bikini briefs, and when there's sort of, the general turns up at the beginning to sort of brief him on what's going on, and he's desperately trying to keep eye contact, but his eyes keep just drifting down and then back up again and drifting down and back up again. It's like,
yeah.
I thought they was going to make something of it. It's like, are you staring at my crotch, General? But no, they didn't. But yeah, it was very evident. It's quite funny. Okay, Rich, what did you make of Boudica?
Well, I have to say straight off the bat that this isn't my cup of tea, this kind of film. You know, the whole sort of historical epic, battle scenes, Braveheart, all that sort of thing. I don't really go in for that. So I was here, mate. I was watching it because of Jesse Johnson. That's why, tune in. That's the main reason that I'm interested in it. That it didn't sort of convert me into, enjoying this particular kind of thing. Although I think it's perfectly, good and serviceable for the kind of film that it is. I thought as a Jesse V. Johnson film, coming at it from sort of looking for, recognizable trademarks and things like that. Obviously, we've got like you say, Olga Kurylenko's in there. They've worked together a few times, including White Elephant recently. I think, well, I know they've done that one. Have they done? I think they might have done something else before, but I know they definitely did White Elephant. And then obviously you've got other familiar players, as you've said, like Dominic Vandenberg is in a sort of a small sort of supporting role once again. I always like seeing him. He's been with Jesse Johnson since the very, very beginning. Was the star of his first film, and the whole sort of period, nature of it, and the strong female lead, very, very much reminiscent of Hell Hath No Fury from a couple of years ago. I think there's a lot of thematic similarities there. I mean, both of them were sort of fairly shot in the woods kind of movies about these gatherings and fighting back resistance and strong female leads, and but a very different story. This one, there was a couple of other little things like there's the shots of like the slaughtered animal scenes, which or the cutaways to the slaughtered animals, which really reminded me of The Debt Collector, when he was using those as sort of sort of artistic asides to sort of comment on the nature of the work that French and I can't remember the other character's name, but basically the debt collecting work, the two guys, Lewis Mandel and Scott Adkins, French and Sue, that's it. But so yeah, and always good to see Jesse working more in the UK, making a British film. A lot of his films have historically been American productions. It really sort of started to change when he started working with Scott Adkins, when he did Accident Man and Avengement, most notably with Nick Moran, and then say more recently One Ranger, which I haven't caught up with yet. I'm not sure if that's a co-production, but that's about an American character in the UK. It's got a bit of a Brannigan kind of thing, quite interesting.
I can see that being a throwback in about 2 years' time, I think.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see it soon. I mean, it does look cool. So yeah, there was the action is all, the combat is all well done. I thought I can't remember who. I know Dan Stiles was involved. And a couple of other people bringing all the action together. The stuff with the daughters, which is like all to do with her mental state and stuff, I thought was really interesting. I thought that was all handled really well. Added a nice little dimension to it. I mean, obviously Olga Kurylenko's transformation from like the start of the film to how she becomes later on. More than one person, I think, on Twitter has commented on similarities to Avengement in that regard. The stuff with the magic sword I thought was quite interesting. The film has is limited on its budget. There's a couple of bits, like there's a little bit of CGI and stuff in there, not too much, but it's obviously there. It's obviously CG, and it doesn't quite come off, I don't think. I think when it's sort of working within its sort of Steve Lawson kind of limitations, I think it works better than when it's trying to, to emulate kind of something bigger. It still can't quite pull that off, but it's good. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, the sword stuff with the sword. Like I say, there's a bit where the sword gets broken and she goes to retrieve it, and it's all this kind of mystical sort of magical scene. And there's another scene where it's almost like it's basically a lightsaber scene where she like puts her hand out and like the sword sort of comes to her, and that which happens very, very close up. So again, sort of seems to be a bit of a limitation on the budget there. But I thought those sort of flourishes, the sort of fantastical stuff, kind of worked okay. I didn't have a problem with it, and overall, Boudica's story, or Boadicea, there's different interpretations or understandings of what her name was. But there's been so many stories of that character, or historical person. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it to know how historically, whether she's more of like a Robin Hood figure who never really existed, or whether she really is like a. It says at the beginning that she was recorded in Tacitus's writings, I think. Was it Tacitus?
Yeah.
You remember?
No, she was a real person. She did.
Was a real person.
Yeah, so she did destroy Colchester.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really know the whole. I mean, so I know very little about this. I watched the film. It reminded me of like Horrible Histories, the movie, or something. Bit like it's got a bit like that, but like with lots more blood and guts. I mean, there's a lot of decapitations and all that sort of stuff. So you know, it's very. It doesn't skimp on any of that stuff. Action fans will enjoy it. It's interesting to see Jesse sort of pushing the boat out again. You know, trying to do something a bit bigger, you know, in terms of more ambitious, rather than the sort of templated sort of action that he's kind of synonymous with. He's always trying to sort of, I mean, the amount of films he churns out, he every now and again he's like really trying to push the boat out in exploring different themes and styles and stuff. And you know, there was a film he did years ago called The Beautiful Ones, which never got released over here. I didn't get to didn't get to see that, but he made that around the same time as Savage Dog, which was also where he was trying to. I think that was one of the first films where he was trying to evoke a certain historical period. That's one of the Scott Adkins films I haven't seen yet either. But yeah, so I think he, you know, Jesse's sort of proving himself again to be, you know, the leading DTV action director. Even if this one's not my particular cup of tea, there's nothing you can fault about it. In my view, I think it certainly ticks all the boxes. It's just, you know, something like One Ranger is more my sort of thing.
Sure. Okay, well, I do enjoy historical epics, especially sort of the bloodthirsty ones like Braveheart and things like that. And this certainly was up my street. You know, it's what, 2 hours long, just short 2 hours.
Hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, and it does sort of take its time setting things up. You know, we get a lot of sort of life with the Icenies, that sort of thing, and sort of getting to grips there. We do get a great little moment with this slave trader, where things start sort of turning. I thought that was very well done. I liked the mystical stuff, the bit with the sword where the guy comes along and, you know, wrecks it, chucks it in the river, and she just immediately goes after it. That sort of reminded me very much of sort of Excalibur kind of thing. You know, not the same, but it was that similar sort of myth building. There's even a bit of sort of Dune in here, in that it's sort of there's this sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? Prophecy fulfillment going on, you know, and sort of people are sort of
Faulkner as the druid,
kind of sort of pushing her in a certain direction to sort of fulfill the prophecy. There's a lot of that. I agree with the kids. You know, usually that sort of thing rubs me up the wrong way, but I thought they were well used. They are actually sisters as well in real life. It kind of reminded me a bit of The Shining. You know, why didn't she come and play with it? Is that sort of thing? But it's like, you know, as you say, it's like her mind, you know, filling in the gaps kind of thing. It's like, you know, there does seem to be some sort of supernatural connection to you know, a higher being or something, you know, and meeting a certain destiny and all that sort of stuff. I like the thing with the sword, you know, because at first you're not sure, and then sort of somebody goes, "Wait, did you just see that? Was that real?" Which I thought was really good. There do seem to be a lot of people out there who were expecting something on the scale of Braveheart with this, and have sort of like compared it rather unfavorably. I think that was a bit unfair. I think he's gone as epic as he can. There's a few, you know, sort of matte screens as well, some matte paintings, which I thought worked really well. You know, where they're sort of looking across the river and there's a whole Roman sort of town, and it's, you know, it's clearly a matte painting, but it works. You know, it was quite old school. I quite like that. I think the thing that really makes this stand out though is the cinematography, because the lighting on this, especially, you know, right from the beginning, the sort of the night scenes and everything. The cinematographer was a guy called Jonathan Hall. I thought
he works with Jesse Johnson quite regularly. I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he's the sort of go-to guy. And yeah, he was on Hell Hath No Fury, Triple Threat, you know, and done other things as well. But yeah, he's very good at what he does. And yeah, the way he lit this, it did give it that sort of a very sort of artistic, epic sort of scope to it, and it worked very well. Anything else, guys, for this one?
I'll just say I don't know if you recognise him, but the bad guy from Tom Payton's Black Site, he was kind of the leader of the Romans who wasn't Nick Moran. Basically the second command guy. And it took me a couple of minutes to sort of remember that's what I'd seen him in, but then I could say, the way he was speaking his lines and stuff, I could remember it was. I did do a quick search on him, and also Leo Gregory's in there as well, which was pretty cool. It's nice to say that's kind of not the kind of role I would typically expect to see Leo Gregory in. So I thought that was a bit, I quite like seeing that. And obviously James Faulkner, but it was Peter Franzen, who's I'm pretty sure his first scenes when he's introduced are dubbed. They certainly felt like they were, but he's actually a Finnish actor. I thought he was really good. He's done quite. He was in Black Lotus that we covered a while back, which was that.
Very good.
I think it was
Frank Grillo and
was it set in Amsterdam? I think action movie, which I liked. He's also done the TV. Well, he might be most well known from the TV series Vikings because he's done about 50 episodes of that. And so I liked him. So I thought the cast was, it's not stacked with names that people may recognise, but I think there's enough interesting players in the cast. And I'm not overly familiar with this guy's work, but I thought he stood up to the challenge sort of thing of trying to because a lot of his stuff is the sort of second lead, doing a lot of scenes with Olga Kurylenko, who's got such a vast filmography. She's been she's still only relatively young, but it seems like she makes like three or four films a year, and it's like and not just like supporting roles, like leading roles. So she's so always interesting, and then there's supporting roles in things like The Princess and stuff as well. But whether she's playing a supporting player or the lead in an action film or a thriller or whatever, I think Olga Kurylenko is excellent, and rose to the challenge of what Jesse Johnson had set out.
Cool. Scores on the doors, guys. Steve.
I'll give it a 7.
And Rich.
It's not my cup of tea, but I certainly think it's a good quality film, and people who like this sort of thing will enjoy it. So it's definitely a 7 from me.
Yeah, I am going to join you guys on a 7. High 7 from me, but definitely a 7. 3 7s for Boudica. Go check it out. Our next film is Bite. Pursued by a dangerous criminal after a failed theft, con artists Nina and Yaz get more than they bargained for when they target a seemingly innocent elderly widow. Steve.
Yes.
Kill me. Kill me now. Please.
I'll be honest, I didn't think it was that bad. There was a couple of positives. Not too many, but I thought the main actress, is it Cheyenne Donovan? I thought she was really good. Her girlfriend, Yaz, I thought was okay, but the bits where she was like high and, talking to herself and stuff.
Just yelling at each other.
Came out as something else. But I thought everyone else was terrible.
Yep.
Especially the father, the Gerald or whatever it was called.
How much better would this been if he'd played it, if he'd played his role calm?
Yeah.
And took the emotion out of his voice instead of being this sort of shrill, nasty idiot, like a pantomime villain. If he played it calm, I think it would have worked so much better.
Yeah.
But,
he would.
But everyone was like that. Right across the board, everyone was sort of turning up to 11. Just feeding off each other's energy, and it did not work at all. It was a mess.
The sons were terrible as well.
Yep.
Even the gangster, he was just he was turning up to 12. To be fair, he was so over the top. But I mean, I kind of figured where it was going. I didn't expect it to go as gory as it did. To me, there was a couple of bits where it's like, yeah, we'll skip that 10 seconds, because it was just
there were a few, admittedly decent practical effects, some good sort of latex, or not latex, we'll talk about, that sort of thing going on. I thought that worked quite well. The start of it, the whole scheme at the beginning was to get these animal rights activists to raid this dogfighting setup, just so they could nick $3,000.
Yeah.
Somebody died. People died in that in that thing.
That's the thing. I think it gives the desperation that they're into. They've got no money, no nothing, and that bit kind of gives it, okay, that shows what dire straits they're actually in. But the performances just can't hold it. They really can't. It was a very big letdown, really, for me.
It was. I had no idea what the film was going to be when I went into it. So that whole beginning bit, it just rankled me. Well, the whole again structure of it, because we got bloody in media res. It can't just tell a story. It has to be all clever and like, we're going to start at this point, and then we'll fill you in as to how she got there. It's like, why? You don't need to.
Yeah,
it's done.
I agree.
It has, but there you go. Okay, I think we've wasted enough time on this. What are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 4.
I was aiming for a 5. I'm going to stick with a 5. That's a low score for me.
Yep.
So there you go, a 4 and a 5 for Bite. If you like a bit of gore, you may like this. Otherwise, go check it out anyway.
Yeah.
Our next review is the Red Tide Massacre. A female TV reporter investigating the red tide environmental disaster in southwest Florida becomes the target of an unknown monster. This is, very low budget, Steve. I think I didn't hate this as much as the other, the last one, but only just.
I think I did.
Let's okay. So the film starts with footage of this red tide thing. I imagine it's some sort of algae kind of thing, which is infecting all the wildlife in Florida. It's killing millions of fish and all the rest of it. This red algae, which is attacking everything, Steve. So we get this guy who's an escaped convict running through the Everglades, being chased by Michael Parry and other people. We get this stupid scene where one of the cops chasing him suddenly stops because his wife calls him on the phone, and it's like, "Babe, I told you not to call me when I'm at work." And it's like, oh my god, just so he can get attacked, and have his gun stolen and all this sort of stuff. It's an awful scene. But then this guy, he gets infected by the red tide algae. What color does he turn into, Steve?
Green.
Indeed, of course he does.
Yeah.
as you would.
If it turned red, it'd clash against his orange suit.
That's the point. Yeah, maybe that's what they considered. Yeah, maybe they considered that. So we've got this red tide massacre, this red tide algae infecting this guy and turning him into a green monster, basically.
Yeah.
And then we have the town folk. As mentioned, we got Michael Parry in here playing the sheriff, and we've got this guy called Sam Schweikart who plays his son Tommy, who, it's funny because it's funny how Americans treat law enforcement.
Yeah.
It's like Michael Parry's character. He's the sheriff, but he was sort of voted into the position. He's who knows if he had any actual police experience before he took on the job. And the same with his son. They're going, well, son, we were rather hoping you would become sheriff one day. How? How is he going to become sheriff?
Just give him.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What and in this film, there's scenes where they're doing manhunts and things, and the other cops are sort of like listening to his orders. And it's like he's not even wearing a uniform. He's wearing.
He looks about 17, and you're second in the order time.
Oh god, it's there's a lot of that sort of shit going on in this one.
Yeah.
Again, there are one or two nice practical effects. There's at least one good beheading because this guy develops these claws. But the end result of this creature, it's like something out of a 1960s Roger Corman film. Maybe that's what they were going for.
I think that's all we could go for. Because there's no money spent on this.
Yeah. If you think of the costume for the Gorn from the original Star Trek series, which is like this immovable head sort of lizard creature, then you're sort of pretty much there with this one. But
to me, it kind of reminded me like the original Swamp Thing with tendrils on its face, and that was kind of about it.
That's about it.
And well, let's be honest, it is shy. There's no beating around the bush. The performances are terrible. The action is terrible.
Yeah.
The effects. I mean, like I said, there's a couple of decent effects, but it don't even gel together as a film. You've got so many massive exposition dumps by this supposed journalist.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh, we are destroying the world. We need to get.
See, I didn't even realize she was meant. I didn't even realize she was meant to be the main character. According to IMDb, she's the main character. But if you watch the film, it's obviously it's the the sheriff's son is meant to be the main focus, and it is quite funny that he's sort of like really against becoming the sheriff, and yet all he talks about is his dad being the sheriff.
And he's got, was it a dive shop or something?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Which I first thought he said dye shop, like tie dye or something.
Yeah.
And he's just doing like tie dye shirts for people in this crappy shop.
It's not good, man. You can't recommend it. It's not. It's made for about literally 20 quid.
Yeah. And
it's been a while since I've seen something this cheap and nasty. And
I don't mind cheap. I don't mind cheap as long as there's some sort of competence behind it, and this didn't. I mean, the people making it will probably sort of point towards Roger Corman, or even Edward Jr. And say that was their inspiration, but it doesn't make it a good film.
No, even something like Birdemic, they'll probably say, "Yeah, we're trying to do something like that," and it's like,
no.
No.
How are you going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it. What did I give? Bite.
You gave the other one 4.
I'm going to give it 3 then.
Yeah, I'm giving this a 4. Unfortunately, a 3 and a 4 for the Red Tide Massacre. If it's your thing, go check it out. Our short shot this week is The Offering. When Molly accepts a job caring for an old man with dementia, she soon finds out the dark secret to his riches. Okay, so this is a nice sort of 13-minute short. We have this young woman called Molly who's taken a job as a care worker within this house. She's kind of asked to sort of start immediately because the man's son has to rush off. And she's left with this guy who's got dementia. He's usually quite placid and sort of, keeps to himself, but he seems to be sort of racked by night terrors and it sort of panics and things, and it sort of builds up nicely to this sort of great moment at the end. Steve, what do you make of it?
It was all right. It just, to me, it seemed a little bit too long in the tooth to get to where it was going. And that scene at the end was a good scene at the end, but it just seemed to come out of nowhere. You know, the only thing he was doing was like flipping a coin, and then he ran out of the house naked. Oh no, he was in a room, weren't he? That was in the background, and then ran out naked. And next thing, he's back in bed.
Yeah.
And this, well, I don't know what it is, was turned up. And there was kind of no build up to it, you know what I mean? I know it's only 12 minutes, or 14 minutes, whatever it is, but there's normally some kind of slight supernatural thing going on, maybe a few doors banging or something. And there just doesn't seem to be any of that at all. It just, bang, there we go, done, dusted, see you later. And that, it was a bit uneven for me with that.
Okay.
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit. I mean, I wasn't expecting, you know, playing it back over my head, I could see why there wasn't any sort of supernatural sort of shenanigans going on. And I think there were one or two clues. There's a bit where she sort of gets hung up on this painting, and this seems to be sort of mesmerized by it for a moment. And there are sort of a few sort of like, you know, is there something else in the house sort of moments going on. The bit I actually really liked in this is that when she sees what is going on in the room, she doesn't bolt, and she's curious enough to sort of go up to her and say, "What are you? You know, who are you?" Which I thought was a great moment, because you never see that. You know, you never get that moment, and I wish we had more of it. I think more people would survive a horror film if they had that sort of attitude. You know,
I think that's a reference to not a reference, but like the bit you just said about the painting where she's captivated by it and she's drawn to it. I think that is setting up that ending. I think that's there's a direct connection there, because at first it does seem, oh, that's really weird. Why is she moving forwards? That's counter to what you would actually expect. And you're like, is that have they made a wrong move there? Is that you know? Is that a misstep by the directors or whatever? And you think, no, that they've gone for that. That's a very deliberate choice. Yeah. And I think when you go back and, like you're saying, if there are clues peppered through it, I watched it a second time earlier today, and there are little bits like for example the coin. When you see the coin close up, there's like something on the coin, and as you say, there's little indications or, you know, slight unease, or, you know, some things are a bit off and stuff that I think actually worked really well, and it worked well for me the first time, but I think on the second viewing you can pick up on a few more of those things. Sorry to interrupt you on that point.
No, it's fine. Yeah, because that was it.
Yeah, maybe, like I say, I've only watched it the once, so I probably didn't spot him, but, you know, if you say you spot him a second time, then maybe you do, but...
Well, you know, it's just like things like because he's the old man's got his dementia, and he's not he's just, like you say, sitting there flipping the coin and stuff. And there's the scene where he's in the dining room, I think it is, and he's like looking at like this open door. You know, you don't see anything there, but it's like he's clearly distressed, and then the camera sort of lingers on it and sort of indicates to you that, you know, maybe there's something present in the house, and there's all the little things like they're having the conversation, you know, oh, you know, when did you get the house, and how did you get all the money and stuff? But and then the son is
kind of poor. You grew up poor. Then his dad sort of turned it around and that sort of stuff, and it was all to do with the coin, isn't it? As I say, you know, he's had that same coin since whenever, you know, since his first deal or something.
Yeah. So I think there's a little things are setting up that. What I really liked about it from watching it straight away was I thought the production values suited it perfectly. And it really reminded me of a lot of Ty West's House of the Devil. in that it sort of evoked like a...
Yeah, I would have liked to see more of the house, I must admit.
Well, I mean, the aesthetic of the film, you know, it's like not just the house itself, but you know, the film House of the Devil, and it's got like this 1970s kind of vibe to it. And this one is, you know, it's not in widescreen; it's shot in a sort of 4:3 setup, which I think works really well. Yeah, so it was that House of the Devil kind of vibe that I quite liked. I thought it felt like it was like an older film. Not you know, it stood apart from a lot of the horror shorts and stuff that I see. I just thought it worked, the aesthetic of it worked really well. I don't know if you ever saw the film Dead of Winter with Mary Steenburgen and Roddy McDowall, but that really came to mind as well. I don't remember anything much about that film. I don't know if it was the same plot as this, like a housekeeper kind of thing. I'm not sure if it had any of that, but the vibe of it, that film, you know, I saw it when I was very young. It made a strong impression on me, and so when I was watching this, I was like, oh, those are the two things I was thinking of. I was like House of the Devil and Dead of Winter, and it's like there's three actors in it. It's basically carried by the lead actress for the most part, but yeah, it's these three performances. I just thought it was really, really good. The guys who made it are James and Vincent Coleman. We've covered a film that they did. I think we covered a film they did before. It was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film, right? Raw. I'm not 100% sure whether we covered it, but
they've also done the Halloween one as well, haven't they? Done Halloween.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it. It's in 3 parts. Halloween Inferno. Yeah, very well worth seeing. I thought it was.
They've put it together as one now. Well, a couple of
years ago. Boogeyman cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I thought they did a really, really good job. I mean, I think they're really talented filmmakers. Say the fan films that I've seen that they've done, as well as their original projects like this one. I just think they're putting out some really good stuff on their YouTube channel. There's tons of stuff on there you can go and find, and as well as like making of stuffs and different things like that. But yeah, but really interesting. You know, very talented couple of guys. Yeah, I'd actually missed this one. This one came out like 6 months ago, but I'd only just recently caught up with it, and yeah, it was probably the favourite film of theirs that I've seen. Yeah, they've got a Silent Hill fan film as well, which I think is not yet released. I think that's still on the way. I'm not sure, but they've got so many different projects and stuff. But yeah, it's a really interesting couple of filmmakers, and yeah, I was really impressed by this one.
Yeah, same here. We don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. You will find a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Maniac Cop 2. Following on from the events of the first film, this sees our erstwhile cop teaming up with a Times Square serial killer. Interesting one, this. I really like the first one. I must admit, I hadn't seen this one, I don't think, at all until this time round. It is quite bold in what happens to certain protagonists from the first film, because as I said, it is directly sort of lifts off. In fact, it repeats the ending of the first film at the beginning of this. And you know, in the first one, we had Bruce Campbell as this disgraced cop who's been kind of framed for these murders, and then you know he's able to sort of prove it's this guy, Matt Cordell, who was you know, he was a cop. He was sent to prison, got murdered in prison, and has sort of come back as this sort of like supernatural vigilante. And there's sort of, well, not even a vigilante, is he? Because he's sort of very indiscriminate about who he actually sort of kills. We see him sort of stop a convenience store robbery, only then to kill the convenience store clerk and this sort of thing. We got Robert Davi as our sort of main character, supported by Claudia Christian from such things as Babylon 5 and The Hidden, of course. Yeah, it's interesting, this one. There's a lot going on. I think my favourite sequence in this is just totally bizarre. It starts with a great stunt sequence where this guy dives out of a 3rd floor window falls onto a delivery truck below it, bounces off, and then sort of falls on the ground, all in one shot. Then he stands up, and then gets shot by Robert Davi, who has the gall to turn around to the police later and go, "Yeah, well, it was either me or him." It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's just, he's just staggering to his feet. He hasn't even got a gun, and he just blasts him away. And it's like, yeah, there you go. Well, dangerous street criminal.
But that's a great example of like a very unique kind of one-er.
It's a great one-er.
You don't see that sort of stuff, do you? I mean, it was just so well executed.
I was thinking all the way through this how much of it would end up being green screened or CGI'd. If it had been made today, it'd be ridiculous. There's the whole bit with there's a scene where Claudia Christensen's character is handcuffed to a police vehicle when she's outside it, and it's going down the thing. I mean, that whole sequence was superb. Whoever was doing the stunt driving or stunt work on that one, I hope they got paid a lot. Basically,
Spiro Rosatos is the man behind all that. Exactly, and he even gets the credit at the start of the film, which is quite unusual, but very well deserved.
Absolutely, yeah. That whole sequence, even the bit with the cab, the taxi cab with its the rims sparking and everything. All that was brilliant. Very well done. And then that sort of extended fire scene at the end. The guy set on fire and sort of walking through the prison. All of that, brilliant stuff.
And they must have done. I mean, they were doing. That was another case where they were using some really long takes, and you can't do a full body burn like that for very long. So they must have really been pushing it really to the limit. And they probably shot a few different. They probably shot it a few times to sort of put it all together. But some of the shots were so long. I was like, well, I'd be amazed if anyone didn't get seriously hurt trying to do this, because there was you say it's normally very quick, those kinds of things, and this was going on, and it would be all CG now. But they couldn't do it. I mean, they could have done some artificial sort of effects on it, but you wouldn't have got the quality at the time. So the only way to do it is to do it for real.
There's a couple of things. There's the guy. I think it's Michael Lerner's character, Edward Doyle. There's a bit towards the end where Claudia Christensen, she had a wrist broken in that sort of car scene earlier. She ends up getting taken hostage with by this serial killer with the Maniac Cop guy and this other black dude who's on death row. And then Michael Lerner's character sort of goes, bloody hell, look, she's been back in uniform for one day and she's got herself bloody kidnapped. Oh, what a cop. Oh, bloody hell. We watched that film. What was that one we saw last time? Ballistic. And the amount of misogyny that was in that one was off the charts. For that one scene with Michael Lerner, that was great. The other one as well, we got Charles Napier in here in a short role, playing this sort of news reporter, sort of interview kind of guy, and he looks in this film. He looks the spitting image of Sean Hannity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he really does. It's really bizarre. It's the way they've sort of styled him. It's a very, very prescient sort of moment. I thought that was very good. But yeah, this is it's a pretty decent sort of thriller. I quite enjoyed it. Steve, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I had seen it before when I was when it came out.
1990.
When about 10 or 12 when I watched it. Which is way before I should have done, but oh well. Yeah, to me I thought the script was really impressive. I mean, like you say, the stunt work was great, especially the prison and the police station massacre and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was
they were really good.
Massacre, that was,
yeah, and I like the fact that it goes deeper. Like I said, the Michael Lerner character, he has to do that monologue saying right, okay. Because I'll be honest, I didn't remember the first one as well. I've seen it again, but I didn't remember it. And he's like, yeah, we set you up and I liked the way it went deeper. That it was just, it was just a psychopath, maniac, supernatural cop or whatever. It actually had reasoning, and it kind of, closed the book at the end, really. But obviously, there was a third one. Again, I can't remember.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
I've seen it, but again, I can't remember. You're talking like 30 years ago now. So maybe we could do that one. I don't know. I don't know what gives him the impetus to come back this, in the third one again. But the other thing is it Robert Zadar? Is that who?
Yeah, that's who plays him. Yeah.
Great performance with no lines, basically. I think he's got one line.
Yeah.
With in that flat with his mate. Maybe not his mate, but you know what I mean. But yeah, all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I remember it being, and I just think the story was done really, really well.
Rich, over to you, mate.
This was probably one of the ones I saw at like the formative period, a bit like Steve was saying. When it came out, I remember. I mean, this was one where the posters were all over the video shop, and I really like the poster. I think it's really memorable. I'm pretty sure I did rent the film or get my parents rented the film for us, and I'd never seen the original. So, and I'm still not sure if I've seen the original actually. Even now, I've definitely seen. I'm pretty sure I saw the third one.
I covered it.
I don't know if I ever went back.
Came out on Blu-ray, and I covered it then. I think.
Oh right. The first one's got Tom Atkins, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
And so the film sort of it's really weird going back, watching it now, because it literally just leaps into the action sequence from, if it's the end of the first film.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, you're just like right in the middle of the sequence, and then it plays it out basically in its entirety, and goes straight into the.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. We watched it on YouTube, didn't we? And I thought there'd been a cock up with it. Because there's no studio presented by anything.
No
intro
or anything.
Just straight.
Straight in, and there's just little things. I didn't remember the whole film, so watching it was I don't remember any of this kind of thing, with the exception of the beginning, which I thought was really memorable. I knew. I remember the bit where you see him walking along, framed, like his body is framed, that you don't see his head, but he's twirling the baton.
Yeah.
It's really memorable scene. Really, it's great how he's twirling it and stuff, but it's just really memorable how that whole bit is shot. The whistling theme, the very sort of slight motif that they sort of weave into that, which I presume came from the first film. They weave into the score. That was very memorable. Don't remember any of the stuff about the bearded serial killer and them becoming buddies and stuff. I thought that was already weird. I didn't quite get that. I didn't think that really sort of panned out quite. It felt like there were bits missing, especially when you get to the end. That they've been buddies, because he's like he goes to he's just met this guy. The guy gets taken to the prison, and then Cordell doesn't really know that he's there, but for some reason the guy's like, "Oh yeah, my friend's coming for me," It's like, and he does, and it's like, okay, maybe I don't know whether there's some sort of psychic link between them or something. I don't know. It's weird how that plays out, but it does bring in this fantastic sort of Terminator meets Friday the 13th, massacre at the police station scene, which was pretty cool. The cast you've already mentioned. Some of the cast is incredible. We've got Robert Davi, who's front and center on this one. Bruce Campbell and Laureen Landon appear from was it Laureen Landon in the first one as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had Laureen Landon on the Smoking Lamb podcast.
Yes.
Way back when.
Because she used to do a lot of stuff with Larry Cohen, who was the writer and producer of this and various other things. Yeah. So she's. Those characters reprise, and I thought it was quite interesting how they did that, because they kind of get a lot of screen time, and then they're off, kind of thing. And then the film sort of transitions quite awkwardly to these different characters, and it's weird because
I think there was enough overlap.
Yeah.
I think there was enough there that you could, if you didn't know, you could think, they're carrying on with the same characters from the first one.
Yes.
But you do get this moment. It's like, oh shit.
But that's what I mean. I think it's more of a kind of Psycho kind of thing. You think you think you're going to be following these characters, and it's like, nope, we're going to follow these characters instead. This is way before the X-Files, but there's very much kind of a Mulder and Scully kind of thing going on with these two characters, especially Claudia Christensen's character. She's very Scully-like, and Robert Davi. Do you remember Darkwing Duck?
Yeah,
the cartoon. And I was just thinking, he's walking around with that fedora and stuff, and the long coat, and he kind of looks like Darkwing Duck or the mystery man in the Halloween. I can't remember if he turned up in Halloween 4, but he was definitely in Halloween 5 and Halloween 6 of this guy with the hat on. Anyway, but it's quite an unusual kind of look. Whether that was Davi's choice or something, I don't know, but it's quite. Say the rest of the cast. Say we've mentioned Charles Napier. We've got Leo Rossi with a big beard in this one. Danny Trejo is a blink and you'll miss. Unfortunately, there's a whole breakout thing, and then Matt Cordell's sort of leading them to go back to the prison and all that sort of stuff. Again, how him and the other guy sort of work this out between themselves. It just sort of seems a bit. They just seem to understand of what they want to do. I don't know if it just feels like this scene's missing or something. Anyway, Danny Trejo is there in that scene when they're in the prison, but unfortunately he doesn't make it to the bus. So we don't get as much Danny Trejo as I would have liked. But Clarence Williams III from the Mod Squad, he's there with them, and as you said, Michael Lerner, who we lost this year, he's the mayor. The cast is amazing. You've even got James Earl Jones's dad, Robert Earl Jones, who's brilliant as the blind owner of the newsstand. Yeah, and he gets a really good monologue sequences. Larry Cohen's sort of behind this, working with William Lustig as the director. Larry Cohen's always got really interesting, working in sort of low budget realm, but really interesting ideas, very cleverly scripted. There's lots of interesting sort of humor in it, a bit like like in Q, the Winged Serpent. Now we sort of, it's one thing, but there's all this other stuff going on as well. But there's that opening scene which subverts that action cliche of the convenience store robbery and how he plays with that. And there's a whole thing with the scratch card. And they do a whole thing. It's like, the guy who's robbing the place convinces him to scratch it off, and then he's like, "Oh my god, it's a winning ticket!" And he gets all excited and stuff. And then it's like, then the ticket's in the blood, and it's just these little sort of additional stuff. But it is really the action component of it is really impressive as well. You don't get kind of action horror combinations like this very often that work this well. And I mean all the bits you were talking about earlier, like the car with the wheels coming off and everything. The sequences in this are unlike most I've ever seen. I mean, they're really unique. That whole bit with the car, runaway car, and she's strapped to the side. I mean, she gets a wrist broken or whatever. In real life, her arm would have been completely ripped off. Yeah. But I mean, hats off to the Ciro Rosatos and the stunt team for those are action scenes sort of for the ages. Really, that all the stunts in this wouldn't be beaten now. They're so good. I don't know if there's as much action in the first one. I mean, obviously there's that big crash at the end, but I don't know have you seen all of them or just the first one, Mike?
Just the first one. Yeah.
So how does this rank in terms of its action combination of action and horror?
I think there's more action in this one. I think they have sort of up the ante here. The first one is more, a cross between a sort of slasher and a police procedural.
Yeah.
I think this one's definitely more action heavy from what I can remember.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, have either of you seen the Good Bad Flicks sort of episode where they cover this.
No.
I don't think I have actually.
It's worth checking out. They do.
Yeah, definitely.
They do a 15-minute exploring Maniac. Well, they've done both of them, Maniac 1 and 2, separate episodes. And it goes in about 15 minutes of going through interesting stuff about Claudia Christian in that one and her sort of state that she was in. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I shall put a link to it in the footnotes along with the link to this film. We found a very good copy of this on YouTube. Is it not available in print at the moment? It's not available.
I think you probably pick up old DVDs, but I haven't found it on any streaming services or anything. So I think it's
fair game. Yeah.
I think the version that was on YouTube might have been because it was in widescreen. Yeah. So I presume it was like a Blu-ray release or maybe like a widescreen DVD release that got ripped.
Could be.
Just want to mention that it ends really incongruously with a rap song, which was a whole thing that people were starting to do around 89, 90. It's like the Maniac Cop rap song, which there's barely any black characters in the film or anything, but they still have to add a rap song at the end, like they did with Ghostbusters and all that. But it's really weird. Very much of its time.
Absolutely. Right. In that case, we're going to wrap up. We don't score the throwbacks. We do recommend you check them out. As we mentioned, you can find a copy of this on YouTube. We will put a link to it in the footnotes. Go check it out. So thanks to Rich and Steve for joining me and sharing the pain of watching Bite and Red Tide Massacre. The Red Tide Massacre, which turns people green.
Yeah.
But there you go. Hopefully, the next episode we'll get to watch some better films. We hope. But other than that, thanks for listening. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest and the Short Shots. Other than that, thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.